Hello, this is my first journal for health psychology, and this is in regards to changing a certain behavior. Hello, my name is Gustavo Ramirez, and I'm 23 years old. I work as a landscape contractor, and I'm pursuing a bachelor's in landscape architecture for that reason. Um, I am also a wrestling coach, and the photo on the bottom left is from a recent tournament this past weekend where we were champions of the whole tournament, and I also had a couple of the girls place in their individual weight classes. Um, a funny childhood memory of mine is when I was in third grade. I was actually suspended with a couple of friends for shoving some paper towels down the toilets and ended up flooding the bathrooms. This is not only performed in one of the bathrooms, but in two of them. Looking back now, I can see that it wasn't a very good thing. It was pretty terrible, but it was also pretty silly at the same time when I think of it now because why would I do something like that? The health behavior that I'm choosing to focus on is exercising, more specifically weightlifting. The reason I'm choosing this is because I actively avoided this during the pandemic and made excuses not to exercise at all. Everybody was indoors, so for the first month, I bought a new game console and was doing that and told myself that I would get back into it as soon as the pandemic was over, thinking it was going to be quick, but it ended up being a whole year of things being closed and never really getting back into the groove of it. Prior to the pandemic, I was able to perform 27 pull ups in a row, but now I can only get about 10 because of the lack of exercise and fat gain. This has led me to have very little energy to perform everyday tasks, and I'm very sleepy all the time. So, even watching TV or trying to do my homework is very challenging sometimes because I feel like I need to take a nap most of the day. Um, Any exercise I get now is very little and doesn't really do much. This is why I feel like a strict high intensity weightlifting regimen will probably whip me back into shape. Right now, keeping up with my goal has not been very good. At the moment, I don't have a set schedule of what days to lift. Prior to the pandemic, I had about 3 days I was going to the gym and a nice schedule, but I haven't been adhering to this during the pandemic and afterwards, or if we're not out of it. Uh, when I ha- Usually when I do lift, I'll lift sometimes with my own athletes when they're in the weight room. I'll jump in with them sometimes, but this is sometimes hard to make consistent because I'll have to spend time with them sometimes to correct their form or to make sure that they're staying on task with their lifts. So this is not the best way for me to get the lifting back in. So I'll need to set time aside for myself to actually do it at home. For strategies to sticking to my goal, I will be tracking my lifts. This will allow me to see the progress that I'm making, such as improving a rep or adding some pounds to a certain lift. I'll also be starting off small and trying to get at least 30 minutes of lifting. This is a short amount of time and will allow me to try to cram it all in into a short period. But if I go a little over, this won't be a bad thing. It's actually a better thing. But at least 30 minutes is my goal. Lastly, instead of watching TV or going on my phone like I'll usually do now, I'll try to work out first before I do any of that, and that way I can use that as a bit of a reward for myself for when I get my lift done. For collecting the data, I'll be using my Apple Watch to keep track of these lifts and make sure I see how much time I've used. Um, there's a certain app on the on the watch that actually keeps track of your workouts and it'll keep track of your heart rate. So I'll be using that app specifically. I'll also be using a notepad to write down the specific lifts that I do to see how much weight I've increased over the weeks and to see all the progress that I've made.